Hello, I'm Eileen, A.Vogel's menopause expert. Welcome to another live menopause chat. And today I'm going to be focusing on unexpected and surprising symptoms of the menopause. And believe me, we do get an awful lot of them every single day of the week. But let's have a look at symptoms just to start with. How many menopause symptoms are there? In general, there's roughly about 34 well-known and documented menopause symptoms, but there are many more unexplained ones, uncommon ones, and unknown ones. Do all women suffer from menopause symptoms? Not necessarily. A small number of women are very lucky. They just seem to sail through absolutely everything. The majority of women will experience a number of symptoms. The British Menopause Society did a survey and they found that the majority of women experienced roughly 7 different symptoms as they went through the menopause. So that's quite a lot just in the space of a few years. They also noticed that 42% of women felt that their symptoms were much worse than what they had known about and what they expected, and that's a real big downer when you think about it. But also that 1 in 2 women just try to get through the menopause themselves without any particular help. How long does the menopause go on for? This is one question that I get asked an awful lot. It's very difficult because every single woman is going to be different. All of you are going to have a complete, unique menopause. Roughly the perimenopause, that's the time leading up to when your periods stop for good, is roughly about 3 years. And we normally say you're postmenopausal after 2 years. So for the average time scale is roughly 5 years. For some women, it's going to be a lot shorter. And for a very small number of women, it can be a lot longer. And some sources say that some women can still be suffering 10 years down the line, which is not a nice thing to look forward to. What causes the menopause? And this is a really good question. Again, another one that I get asked quite a lot. As you approach maybe between 45 and 55, that's the average age that you will start the approach to the menopause. Your production of hormones, sex hormones, that's estrogen, progesterone and testosterone, start to decrease. And it's how your body copes with this decrease of hormones that can end up giving you all the symptoms. So the menopause in a way is a little bit like experiencing withdrawal symptoms from your hormones. So you're going to experience possibly a number of what we would call withdrawal symptoms. And, you know, as I say, some of these can be easy and others can be quite difficult to go through. Now, what are the common menopause symptoms? These are ones that most of us will have heard of even well before the menopause. These are the symptoms that are very often in magazines. These are the symptoms a lot of, famous women are experiencing, hot flushes and things like that. So the common ones are the ones where you'd be looking at changes in your periods in the perimenopause. They either get closer together or further apart or start to miss. Hot flushes and night sweats, we all know those ones, but only 75% of women will experience hot flushes or night sweats. So you won't necessarily get these particular ones. Other common symptoms would be things like mood swings, anxiety, weight gain, loss of libido, and vaginal dryness. But as well as these common ones, there's a huge number that women don't realize it's part of the menopause or it really hits them and takes them by surprise. I recently did a little menopause survey on my Facebook page, and interestingly enough, 93% of women got back to me saying that they had experienced symptoms that they really weren't prepared for, which is a huge amount. So there's an awful lot of you out there maybe wondering what's going on with your own particular menopause. And also we realised that a lot of these symptoms, they're not related to the menopause. So what happens is that women are going to the doctors with a particular set of of symptoms, and the doctor isn't connecting them to their menopause. One of the biggest ones that we discovered, which was really quite a shock for us in the first couple of years that we were doing this, was just how common joint pain is in the menopause. So we have a huge number of women who are experiencing joint pain, are thinking maybe, oh, it's just my age, I'm getting that little bit older, I'm starting to creak, I'm starting to get aches and pains. So they're going to their doctor, they're being tested, but all the tests are coming back fine, and the doctors are saying there's nothing wrong with you. And the women are going, but there is, I'm in a lot of pain every single day. So we do know that there are quite a few menopause symptoms that are not being connected to the menopause, and they're not being treated correctly. Rather than helping the women to go through the menopause better, the symptoms are being treated individually, and very often these treatments don't work particularly well at all. Now, on our Facebook survey as well, we did ask a number of women to share with us what their particular surprising symptoms were. So the first one, one of the really common ones, which not a lot of people realise, is you can get a dry mouth, you can get dry eyes, and you can get a dry nose. The dry mouth, it can be an extremely uncomfortable one. It interferes with your talking apart from anything else. Dry eyes, again, it's a really common one. And especially if you're doing a lot of work on the computer, then your eyes can get very, very uncomfortable. And a lot of women are getting the dry nose, and especially at this time of the year. Here in the UK, we have had some fabulous weather, but hay fever has suddenly struck, and if your nose is dry, you're going to experience a lot of more hay fever symptoms, and probably a lot more severely. So a dry nose can account for an awful lot of allergies and feeling really, really miserable. The dryness is a big issue in the menopause altogether. I mean, most of us know, or we've heard of vaginal dryness, but these other areas of dryness are not quite so common. For this, if any of you are looking for a really good remedy to help with this, is a supplement called sea buckthorn oil. It's what's called omega-7, and it's known to help with vaginal dryness, dry mouth, dry eyes, dry nose, dry skin. It's a lovely one to take all through the menopause, just for dryness generally. And remember, water, really important, because a lot of these dry issues can also be caused just by dehydration in general. We had a lot of emotional issues as well, and one of the main ones that we discovered was kind of negative emotional impact that the menopause can cause. Feeling very needy, feeling very negative. You just feel that you're down the whole time. And this is another big one. And for women, especially women who've been really who are upbeat, who are generally very happy, to suddenly find that they just feel low and blue the whole time can be really upsetting and also disturbing for them. So with these particular remedies, we look at supporting the nervous system. Remedies such as stress relief daytime can often, this is traditionally used to help with stress and anxiety, and magnesium, supplements of magnesium are absolutely great for lifting the mood. So let's see if we have any questions in now. We've got one from Kitten Claus. Hiya. Vertigo was a strange symptom, and it also happened to my mum, my sisters, and my friend. Believe it or not, things like vertigo and dizziness are actually really quite common. There can be a number of causes for this. Sometimes falling estrogen will affect the ears. It can affect the mucous membranes, and we've got something called the eustachian tube, which links the ear to the throat. If this ends up getting a little bit dry, it can end up affecting the ears, and that can lead to vertigo and dizziness. This can also be due to dehydration and also low blood sugar. So this is one where you need to check a few things here. Make sure you're drinking little and often. Make sure that you're eating little and often as well. If you're looking for herbs to help with this, if this is something that's going on, and you've had it checked out by your doctor and it has been diagnosed as vertigo, there is a herb called ginkgo biloba, which can be really effective. So this is certainly one that's worth looking into. You will find as well that a lot of menopause symptoms can be hereditary, and you might find that you get the same symptoms as your sisters and your aunties and your mum and your gran as well. But it's not set in stone. So especially if one of your relatives has had a really terrible menopause, don't just assume that you're going to be the same, because it may be completely different for you. Louise, hi Louise, she's saying, I keep getting crazy memory loss and my brain has gone to mush. Again, this is another one of the common ones that is sometimes not really talked about. It can be so embarrassing if you're at work, if you're amongst friends. I've never been good at remembering people's names, and I'm even worse now. So, you meet someone in the street and you're like, I can't even remember your name. If it's happening on a daily basis, again, ginkgo biloba, it's a super herb for the memory. Its common name, if you like, is called the memory tree. So this one can be taken, and again with the memory, this can be due to dehydration and low blood sugars as well. The memory one tends to be a phase, so don't get too despondent with this one. It's one that seems to come and go during the menopause. You might find it just lasts 6 months and then completely disappears. In the meantime, I'm a great believer in post-it notes. Have them wherever you can, write down everything. The only thing is, just don't write one word. I've seen me put things in my diary, and when I come to that date, there's one word written in the date, and I have absolutely no idea what it's all about. So if you're leaving yourself little reminders, give yourself plenty of information, otherwise you're likely to forget what you've written it down for. Lucy's saying, my migraines seem to be getting worse. Could this be because of the menopause? Absolutely. Now, two things can happen here. Some women find that they got migraines associated with their periods. They often find that as their estrogen falls, that their migraines start to decrease as they go through the menopause. For other women, sometimes the migraines can just suddenly appear. It's something that they have never had before. This is very often due to a really quick drop of estrogen, which affects the blood vessels. The blood vessels, especially around the back of the neck, start to go into spasm, and this then triggers a migraine. And unfortunately, as you go towards the menopause, your levels of estrogen can literally dip in a moment, and it can be very difficult. Unlike period migraines that are appearing in the menopause, you very often can't pinpoint when they are going to arrive, and they can take you by surprise. Remedies such as our menopause support with fermented soya in it are known to help to balance estrogen, so you could look at that, or herbs such as black cohosh can be very effective at just evening out that big dip. But the main factor here is low magnesium. Low magnesium is really common in the menopause. Very often it's connected with falling estrogen. So just when you need lots of magnesium to prevent migraines, it's dropping because your estrogen is dropping as well. So a good high strength magnesium supplement on a daily basis can be really effective for migraines. There's lots of information on the internet regarding the association with magnesium and migraine. So if you do get migraines, it's worth checking this out just to get some more information. Migraines too, you get more sensitive to coffee, you get more sensitive to foods that can trigger migraines, so be aware of that. And remember the dehydration and low blood sugars as well, because they could be a factor as well. Priscilla has saying that her period stopped at 30 due to cancer. She's been taking HRT for 8 years and she doesn't know whether she's going through the menopause. How can she find out? In situations like this, it's really difficult to tell because you have no indication of what's going on. You haven't got missing periods, so you can't even take a guess. All that you can do generally is, if you're roughly in the average age range of 45 to 55, and you are starting to get what appears to be menopause symptoms, then that may be an indication that you're going through it. But the other thing you can do is you could go to your doctors and ask them for a sex hormone test, and that would then indicate your levels of estrogen and progesterone and testosterone, and they can usually compare that to a marker, if you like, and that will give you an indication of where on the scale your hormones are falling. Mystic Light is saying she was diagnosed, or I was diagnosed with progesterone dominance, and I have to take birth control pills to prevent severe diarrhea and vomiting due to a severe hormone imbalance. This is a difficult one. For some women, the hormonal shift can be so utterly severe that you really can't treat this yourself. So, you know, you've obviously done the right thing, you've got it checked out, and you're on medication that's helping you at the moment. The only thing with taking something like the birth control pill, again, it means that sometimes you're not quite sure where you are in the menopause, what's happening. If you're still getting periods, then you can certainly check. That can be a really good way of doing it. And maybe just speak to your doctor as well, and they might be able to give you a few tests as well. Alison, hi Alison, she's saying she seems to have pains in her arms. They feel muscular, but wondered if it could be connected to the menopause. Muscle aches and pains is another one that we get an awful lot of, and there's sometimes, you know, we get some women who say they wake up in the morning and feel that they've already done a marathon before getting out of bed. Yes, this can happen. Again, it tends to be linked to magnesium. With low magnesium, that will affect muscle function. Sometimes you might find that if you get it especially first thing in the morning, that once you're up and about and moving, they ease off. This could be due to dehydration. So again, if it's happening first thing in the morning, just as you get up, have a glass of water beside your bed. Put it there just before you go to bed, and take that just as your feet hit the floor, and you may find that will ease things. Again, a magnesium supplement with your evening meal might actually help to ease the muscle pains as well. Sometimes it's lack of use. I mean, I know myself, I take magnesium, I try and exercise really well, but I find that if I sit for a certain length of time, if I'm at my desk and forget to get up and move, then your muscles can end up just getting a little stiff with inactivity. So if you're one of those who is sitting at a desk a lot, then you really need to make the effort to get up and move about that little bit more too. So, Charlotte is saying, what about trembling? Sometimes she feels that, especially in her arms, they're like spaghetti and trembling. This can be due to a number of things going on. Again, we always seem to come back to magnesium, but low magnesium is an issue in so many menopause symptoms. It can be due to the fact that falling estrogen is actually affecting our nerves themselves, causing them to tremble and shake. Some women find they tend to get things like pins and needles or little shooting pains up and down the arms and the legs as well. This is one where I would say just check with your doctor first of all. Although we're talking about unexpected symptoms in the menopause, it's a good idea just to realise that you can't blame everything on the menopause. Other health issues completely unconnected can appear at the same time. So if anything is worrying you like this, like the trembling, especially if you're getting nerve pain, get this checked out by your doctor first. But you may find just having a magnesium supplement, vitamin B complex, and loads of water. It can also be due to anxiety. So if you feel that you're getting anxiety as a day-to-day menopause symptom, it can be just part and parcel that your nervous system is overfiring. So some of the nice calming herbs, such as valerian or passion flower, can be really lovely to help this particular one as well. Right, someone is actually saying, Anne-Marie is talking about dizziness. Dizziness is ruining her life. Everything has been ruled out, but she can't take our menopause support because she's allergic to certain of the ingredients, and she wants to know what can help. Dizziness, it's a horrible one because, again, this is one that can strike at any time. Well done for getting it checked out. This is really important. Dizziness can be due to low blood pressure, and this is something that isn't often connected with the menopause. Normally people assume that with the menopause you tend to get high blood pressure. For a small number of women, they can get low blood pressure, and if it goes dangerously low, you will end up getting the dizziness. And especially if you bend down to pick something up, or if you get out of bed really quickly and you find that the room's spinning, that's very often an indication of low blood pressure. So please get that one checked out. The other things that it can be, it boils down to the usual ones. I know it sounds a bit boring, but it can be dehydration, it can be your low blood sugars as well. With this one, if you're getting the dizziness at the same time every day, then this is where you do a little diary, because you may find that it connects to something you've been doing maybe an hour or two previously. So things like, have you not eaten for a few hours? Have you missed a meal? Have you had a cup of coffee? Coffee is a real culprit for things like dizziness. Same with too much sugar. So do the little diary, and very often you'll get a clue. And once you know what's triggering the dizziness, it can be much more easy for you to preempt the situation and just try and make sure that it doesn't happen. So Rocky, hi, is saying her IBS has definitely got worse and she's got constipation. Digestive ones is another surprising one, and a lot of women don't realise that the menopause is causing their digestive problems. What happens here is that, remember, for those of you who've been with me from the beginning, we talked about the mucous membranes drying out in the body, and your digestive tract is one long mucous membrane. So falling estrogen can affect the motility and the moisture of the gut. And what happens here is everything just slows down. Instead of you having a meal, instead of having regular bowel function, maybe 24 hours later, it's maybe taking 2 days for everything to move through the digestive tract before you have a bowel movement. And that stagnation in the gut is going to cause bloating, it's going to cause wind, it's going to irritate the gut wall. So this is where the IBS comes in, and this is going to cause the constipation as well. So this is one where you really need to sit down, look at your diet, make sure that you're getting lots of good roughage. That's loads of vegetables, plenty of good fresh fruit. Look at healthy whole grains. So although we do tend to say try and go sort of low carb if you can, because that can cause bloating, then look at things like your brown rice, your wholemeal bread, anything like that that can give you a nice little bit of fibre. And the water, so remember the dehydration, that will be a factor in constipation. Sea buckthorn, again, is another really nice remedy if you're getting that slowing down of the whole digestive tract. We also do a lovely remedy called yarrow complex that is traditionally used to help digestive issues around the kind of belly area. If you find you're getting bloating and things like that, then this particular remedy can be used too. The only thing is, if you're getting a lot of bloating, if it's becoming really painful, if you find that it's not going down, please just get this one checked out by your doctor as well. Don't leave this one. So, doctor, please. Victoria, she's saying, I keep using the toilet more often, and she keeps weeing. Yep, I know, been there, done it. Again, the bladder is another of the mucous membranes. It can get affected by falling estrogen. What happens here is that your bladder becomes more sensitive, and also the bladder valve starts to weaken. So you will find that you hold less in your bladder. You might find you get little leaks, especially if you run or you cough or if you laugh. So all these tend to indicate that the bladder valve is weakening a little bit, and therefore you don't have quite so much control in keeping everything in. Remember the dehydration, because if you're dehydrated, so especially if you're getting hot flushes or sweats and bladder problems, they're very often connected. What happens here is if you're not drinking enough, and especially in the middle of the night, if you're thinking, oh, you know, if I stop drinking in the evening, I won't have to get up and go in the middle of the night. What happens here is that your urine becomes very concentrated and very acidic, and that irritates your poor bladder even further, and you will keep having to go to the toilet. And a good indication it's irritation is if you really need to go to the toilet, and when you go, you just pass a little dribble. That's usually just an indication that things are getting a bit irritated. So for this, loads of water, really keep it up. And for those of you who are having the nighttime trips to the toilet, a small shot glass of warm water just before you get into bed. And the number of women who've got back and said their nighttime trips have decreased because they've had this little glass of water. This is helping to keep your urine less acidic, and therefore you're likely to get up to the toilet less. If you're finding that you're getting a lot of irritation, bladder irritation, a lot of women will say that they feel as if they're getting the burning, they're getting all the symptoms of cystitis. They go to the doctor, they get tested, everything is clear. Again, this tends to be the urine angle. You could look at lovely remedies like cranberry, can be a really good one for this, to keep the bladder that little bit calmer. But remember the water, this is the most super medicine for bladder issues. Rocky again, hiya. Your allergies and asthma are getting worse. Unfortunately, this can happen. Remember, especially if you're getting the dry nose, that will increase allergies. So things like your sea buckthorn oil can be very, very helpful. Your nervous system, as you go through the menopause, this whole thing, if you like, can put pressure on your immune system. So you will become even more susceptible to allergens that are around you, even ones that you breathe. So again, you know, we're getting women coming in now, they're starting to get hay fever symptoms. A lot of menopausal women will get allergies and hay fever for the first time as they go into the menopause, and it's all to do with the extra stress on your immune system. Skin allergies creep up tremendously as well, and a lot of this is to do with your soaps, your bath washes, even the washing powders and fabric conditioners that you use on your clothes. So this is one where maybe strengthening your immune system. Look at echinacea just to help to boost your immune system. For those of you that are maybe starting with hay fever, we have a traditional remedy called polinisan that's recommended for hay fever symptoms, so you could certainly look at that one. Boost yourself as well. Vitamin C is great for allergies, so vitamin C taken little and often, and zinc as well. So all of these things can help just to prepare yourself just that little bit better as well. Honest is actually, can you have cold flashes as well, where you shake and your teeth chatter? You can. This is one of the weird ones. We know, as I said before, we all know about hot flushes and night sweats. But for a few women, it's the opposite. They get really, really cold. It can be a cold, clammy sweat. This one can be really horrible. Some people find that this is associated with nausea as well. It's the same principle as hot flushes and night sweats. The area of the brain, the hypothalamus, which controls our temperature regulation, just goes completely haywire, and this is what triggers the flushes and the sweats. You may find that sage will work as well, although it's normally used for hot flushes and sweats. Because it's working on regulating the hypothalamus, you may find that this will work for the cold sweats as well. It really is a question with this one, mainly of just wearing layers and then, you know, keeping yourself as warm as possible. It's sometimes a little bit more difficult to treat than hot flushes and sweats. Another thing that could be really useful for this one is acupuncture, so that's certainly worth looking into there. Iram is saying hi. Her eyes have gone to pot. She's got all sorts of eye problems, menopause or old age. Could be a combination of both. So the first step here is go to the optician, get your eyes tested and mention to them that you're going through the menopause and they can take this into account. We do know that as well as dryness, the menopause can affect the fluid balance in the eye and that can affect your vision. So in the menopause as well, if you already wear glasses or contact lenses, it's a good idea to get checked maybe once a year instead of every 2 years, just to make sure that everything's kept up to date with this. Eye problems, if you're finding issues with your vision, bilberry is a fabulous herb to help support eye health. You could also look at the supplements that have got things like lutein and zeaxanthine in them. Again, these are really good supplements that you can take for eyesight too as well. Ella Griffith, hi. She said, what can help with major episodes of depression bouts due to hormonal fluctuations? The one thing here with depression, this is something just check with your doctor first. If it's true depression, then over-the-counter remedies are probably not going to be strong enough to help. So just get double checked to start with. The other thing that might be helpful, whether it would be strong enough to help, I don't know, is things like the fermented soya and black cohosh, because we know that these help to balance your estrogen a little bit more. The other thing that you can maybe look at is our liver gets affected during the menopause. It's just part and parcel of all the stress that goes on internally. And our liver is also is needed to help to deactivate our hormones. So if the liver is not working particularly well, if it's overstressed as you go through the menopause, then the deactivation of hormones might not be carried out. And that can also contribute to fluctuations, big fluctuations of hormones on a day-to-day level. So maybe doing a little bit of liver work can be helpful. And that's certainly something that's worth looking into. With a lot of these symptoms that I'm talking about today, I have done videos on them. We've got one on the liver where there's a link to a really lovely little short liver detox program, and these are all on our playlist. So if you want to know a little bit more about these ones, please just check all the videos for more information. Louise is saying, I get really bad anxiety, but only when I drive. This happens to a lot of women. It's a horrible one because you can get into a real panicky mode while you're driving, and you know, especially if you're driving in big cities, it's bad enough at the best of times. It can also be due to your confidence falling, and we do get a lot of women saying that they end up having to give up driving because it becomes such a stressful experience for them. So this is something, so just bear in mind, if you're getting the loss of confidence as well, we've got our lovely confidence essence. That's something that you could maybe take just before you start to drive, or if you start to worry, if you know you're going to be driving this afternoon, take a few doses during the morning and then go in the afternoon. The thing to do here is, if you feel that your confidence is shifting, is if you can, unless it's for work, is try and have company in the car, because very often with another person sitting beside you, that can very often help. Calming herbs as well, such as the Venus sativa, passion flower, and valerian can all be nice ones to take to help with this anxiety too. Right, Chinwe, her period is lasting for up to 2 weeks, 5 days heavy bleeding and about 9 days spotting. Is this menopause related? And you're 53. It's quite possible you're now starting the approach to the menopause, and for some women, periods start to go all over the place. The only thing I would say here is, if you're getting heavy periods, if your periods are really close together, you do need to check with your doctor. One, because they can possibly give you some short-term medication to stop the bleeding, which is really important. Otherwise, you can end up anemic, and that will cause things like fatigue and joint pain and low mood and anxiety. But when we go through the menopause, other things can happen. Some women might have had fibroids for years without realizing it. And when the hormonal changes start, these fibroids can start to get irritated. They can trigger continual bleeding. For some women, they can get what's called a prolapse, and this is where the womb or your bladder or your bowel can shift position. And this can then press into the womb, and that can cause bleeding as well. So in this situation, getting a checkup from your doctor is the first thing that you do, just to make sure there's nothing else going on. And normally they will give you some medication just to help you through this phase. The problem with this one, for some women, they might only get this for 3 or 4 cycles. For other women, it can end up lasting a couple of years. So this is one, don't suffer with this one. Get this one seen to as soon as you can. Not fuel, higher. How much magnesium should I take? She's taking the menopause support, which is great, but obviously there's not enough magnesium in them. This is a difficult one because we all have what's called a bowel tolerance to magnesium. Some women could take 600 milligrams of magnesium absolutely easily with no problem at all. Other women, 150 milligrams, and they're running to the toilet. So this is one you need to experiment with slowly. So if you're starting to take higher levels of magnesium, do it in increments. Normally in the menopause, I would say around about 400 milligrams a day is a good one to be going on with. But if you're taking the menopause support, there's 116 roughly milligrams in the menopause support. So you would then maybe start with another 100 milligrams, try that for a week or 2. If you get on fine with that, then you can increase it that little bit more. Sometimes there will come a point when you just think, I feel so much better, and that's the level that you can stick with. Sarah's saying, sometimes I can cry at the drop of a hat. The last time was like that when I was a teenager. Well, I know this one well too. The crying, the emotional issues during the menopause are ones that are really not documented, and what we're finding is that for a lot of women, these are the really awful ones rather than the physical ones. Estrogen is your happy hormone. When you were having a monthly cycle, your estrogen was at its highest in the middle of the month, and you know, if you look back, you probably would find that your mood is always much better in the middle of the month. And that's why when your estrogen starts to fall towards a period, that you would get the low mood and the irritability and the PMS symptoms. So unfortunately in the menopause, there's no respite. Your estrogen just keeps falling. And that makes it much more difficult for us to hold onto our emotions. We can't keep our mouth shut, we can't keep quiet, we can't keep a stiff upper lip. And you know, a lot of women tell me that they can't watch the TV now, they can't watch sad films because they just start crying all over the place. The slightest little thing can set them off. Sometimes it's nothing. You will just suddenly be aware that you're sobbing your heart out. And you have absolutely no idea why. And then when you stop, you feel fine again. There's not a lot you can do about the menopausal crying, if you like, apart from warn your nearest and dearest so that they don't start to worry that, you know, there's something seriously wrong with you. But if you're aware that it's part and parcel of the menopause, and this is one of these phases, I always used to say to people, if you start crying, enjoy it. You know, how often do we really have a good cry? And if you feel better afterwards, then that's, you know, you're getting a little bit of benefit from it. So this is one thing you could certainly try. Flower essences can be lovely for this. So we've got mood essence, which is traditionally used for low mood. So you could maybe try that if you find that you're crying a lot. But this is one, you know, take heart. This is one that usually just lasts a certain length of time, and then you can grow out of it that way. All right, Alpana. You're saying your period returned after a year of stopping. You started dieting and exercising. Is this normal? This is a really strange one, because periods coming back after a year or so is really very common, and this is why we now tend to say that you're not postmenopausal until you've not had any periods for 2 years, because in our experience quite a lot of women get a period back maybe after a year and a half. The reasons for it, it could be a last fling, so it may well be your hormones are going, okay, I just want to do this one more time. It could be to do with dieting. If you improve your diet, what can happen is your body is suddenly flooded with extra nutrition, and your body goes, great, I've got a little bit extra, let's just get the hormones going again. So that can be another one. We know it can be excessive exercise. I mean, I had one lady, she went on a bike first time for a long time, and next day she ended up with a period. So yes, you know, these things can happen. The only thing we will say here is, especially if it's been over a year, always get this checked out by your doctor as well, just to make sure it's not something like a prolapse or fibroids stirring up again. So Rashmi, hi, she says, I feel irritable at some times and lose my temper. It feels as if I'm a different person. This is another one of these emotional ones that's very rarely talked about. It can be very distressing if you're, you know, usually a cheery person, if you're very calm, if you're very collected, and suddenly you're losing your temper. It can be quite a fright. These episodes, you tend to suddenly find yourself in them before you really know what's happening. I had one lady who had always been quite mild and well-mannered, and she ended up giving her husband a black eye because she just suddenly lost her temper, and she was devastated. And this is what happens, especially if these episodes suddenly come out of nowhere. Your poor partner or loved ones often tend to get the brunt of this. If you're at work, it can be worrying because sometimes it's work colleagues that can get it as well. And you know, that can be very, very difficult to control when you're in the moment. It's just a question really of trying to take a deep breath, just to gather yourself together if you can. Stress relief daytime is a nice remedy. We recommend it for daily stress and anxiety, and some people find that a helpful one. Again, the essences, I love the essences because they can be used in most situations. So in this situation, it would be relaxation essence, and this is something you can carry with you, a few drops on the tongue whenever you feel that maybe things are getting a little bit out of control. Alison is saying, I get pain down one side of my face from her eye down to her ear. This is one I really would check with the doctor. There's something called trigeminal neuralgia. And what happens here is that a couple of the nerves in this area of the face end up rubbing against each other, and it can lead to pain happening a lot of the time. So this one, if it's just sporadic at the minute, just get this one checked out by the doctor before you start at anything, first of all. Herbs that help with the nerves would be things like maybe your fish oils is another one. So if you find that there's a little bit of brain fog and maybe your joints are creaking, sometimes there can be connections, then maybe a good fish oil supplement, but definitely the doctor first of all for this one. Lorraine is asking, does the menopause affect the thyroid level? Since hitting the menopause, her thyroid is all over the place. Yes, and this is one that is very often not picked up when you go to the doctor. Low thyroid can cause symptoms such as low mood and anxiety. It can cause joint pain. It can cause poor hair and skin and nails. And it can cause fatigue. And these are so menopause symptoms. So what you need to do here, especially if you're getting that whole combination, and I always say to women, if you know you're entering in the menopause, get several tests done by your doctor, rule all of these out, and then you know at least it's the menopause. So if you find that you're getting the weight gain as well, or that you just feel really kind of sluggish, if you find you put weight on really quickly and no matter what you do you can't lose it, then very often this is that the thyroid is starting to wobble. So get that checked first of all. If all comes back clear, then you can look at kelp. Kelp is a great supplement just for helping to balance thyroid function. For those of you out there who are maybe just entering the perimenopause, taking kelp before the menopause can help to support the thyroid, and maybe it won't be quite so affected when you go through the menopause. So the kelp is a lovely preventative in the perimenopause for problems that may occur later. If you're already on thyroid medication, then obviously you can't take the kelp, but a really super treatment for helping with a wobbly thyroid is acupuncture. I know a lot of you say, oh, I don't like needles. If you can't face acupuncture, you could look at acupressure. You could also look at reflexology as well. So there are a number of fantastic complementary therapies that can help to support your thyroid function. With the thyroid as well, remember just to make sure that you eat little and often, and drink often as well, just to keep your blood sugar stable, because very often there's a link between the two as well. Shelley, she says she has burning hands and feet for 3 weeks and it's now stopped. She's not diabetic and she's not had periods for 8 months. Is this normal? I would get this checked out by the doctor as well, just to make sure that there's nothing else going on. But burning skin, very often this can be due to histamine. So it's very much a sort of allergic reaction. So if you're sensitive to other things as well, then there could be a link here. So you could be looking at maybe getting an antihistamine. Make sure you drink plenty of water, because dehydration can be an issue with this as well. And maybe look at nettle. Nettle is a super natural anti-inflammatory. It's also a blood cleanser, and this is a great one too if you suffer from things like prickly heat. You know, for those of you who go on holiday and find you get really itchy if you're going anywhere hot, then taking nettle for a week or two beforehand and whilst you're on holiday as well can be really helpful for this. So just double check with this one as well. So Rashmi again, hiya, she's saying she doesn't get a peaceful sleep and you're waking up in the middle of the night. Poor sleep is actually one of the really common menopause symptoms, but we know that if you are getting poor sleep, that's going to affect your mood the next day. It's going to affect your other menopausal symptoms the next day. You only need one night's poor sleep and that can cause havoc for 3 or 4 days. So if you're getting night after night where you're waking up, then it's really important for your general health as well as for your menopause to get this sorted. You can look at sleep herbs such as valerian and hops as well. Take these before you go to bed. Magnesium is great. If that 3 o'clock is waking you up and you have to go to the toilet, remember the glass of water just before you go to bed as well, and that might be able to help you there too. Deborah is asking, really bad period pains but no sign of a period, is this normal? This is another one that happens a lot, and it's not really well documented, and it can be very often you'll find roughly at the same time every month you get all the usual symptoms. You can still get the irritability, the cramps, the bloating, the sugar cravings. You're all set for a period and nothing happens. All that's happening here is that you're still getting a cycle every month, but your hormones are just not high enough to trigger a bleed. So in this situation here, you would treat the symptoms as you would if you had PMS. So you would look at things like your B-vits. Magnesium can be really lovely, especially if you're getting a lot of the cramps. Remember the water as well. If you find though that it's not so much middle cramps, but you're getting maybe pain at one side or the other, this is very often the ovaries causing this. With this one, just double check with your doctor, because there's something called polycystic ovary syndrome. It's like the fibroids. It's one of these that can be aggravated in the menopause, so you might not have had any issues beforehand. So any kind of side pain, any pain in the belly area that's getting to the point where you need to take painkillers, again, just double check with your doctor first. And Rashmi is asking, she's getting sugar cravings daily. Our blood sugar levels can get all over the place during the menopause, and again, this is one an awful lot of women get, the sugar cravings. Your mood can be associated with this. So if your blood sugars dip too low, then your mood will dip. That's when you can get the irritability, that's when you can get the anger, that's when you can get the low mood, and that's when you can get the crying as well. So all these emotional issues can also be tied into your blood sugar control. The reason you're craving sweet things is because your blood sugar has got too low, that your body's going into panic mode, and that panic mode can then trigger adrenaline, so you can get the cravings, you can also get palpitations, and you can get flushes as well. So all these things can definitely be connected. It's really important to keep your blood sugar stable here. So we're looking at regular meals and also good snacks. And for those of you that watch me every week, you will know how much effort I put into just reminding everybody that snacks are really important through the menopause, because if you take them in between meals, your blood sugar is going to be much more stable, and that's going to stop the cravings. So the first thing would be loads of magnesium, because that can help. Your snacks should be not sugary ones, not chocolate biscuits, not donuts, but should be sort of protein carb ones. So to give an instance, today, my mid-morning and mid-afternoon snack, I had half a very small avocado and a couple of slices of cucumber for my mid-morning snack. And my mid-afternoon snack, which I will be ready for after this, I have got just a little bit of cold meat, and again, I'll have a couple of bits of cucumber. Cucumber is a wonder food. It's fabulous that I add it into everything just as an extra little garnish as well. So remember, snacks, absolutely vital to keep the blood sugar stable and to stop the cravings. If your cravings are really bad, if they are out of control, and you try these little tips and they don't help, there's a supplement called chromium picolinate, which is a really good one for helping to balance your blood sugar levels. If you're going up and down a great deal, what can happen as well is it's, you know, don't start to panic and think it's diabetes, but in the menopause you can get to a pre-diabetic state. So again, if you're finding that your blood sugars are all over the place, maybe just ask the doctor to double check for you with that particular one. Sue here, hi Sue. She keeps falling over and her muscles are weakening, and she's on the floor for half an hour sometimes before she can struggle to get up. Really need to go and see the doctor with this one. The menopause, yes, you know, this Monday I actually posted a video about being clumsy, and quite a lot of women were saying that they were falling over. You can lose your balance, so very definitely that can be a particular issue. There could be ear problems as well. Again, with the vertigo, sometimes it can get so bad that you get really dizzy and fall over. There's another condition called Meniere's disease, which can cause dizziness. It can make you feel really seasick, as if you're on a boat. So this particular one, because there can be a number of issues, you need to get this one checked out by the doctor first of all. If there's nothing much going on, then to be honest, I would look at acupuncture, and I would also just check your dehydration and your blood sugar levels, because these can all cause problems with this as well. But definitely get this checked out by your doctor first. Rocky is asking, when does all of this go away? She's getting low back pain and her neck pain is terrible. Remember, for those of you that were in the introduction, that one of the big surprises for us when we started looking at the menopause in depth was the number of women suffering from joint aches and pains, and this didn't seem to be in the list of well-known symptoms, and women were going to the doctors, getting checked out, everything was coming back fine, and literally all they were being offered were painkillers because there was nothing showing up. With joint pain, one of the things that happens is that falling estrogen affects the elasticity of your ligaments and tendons and cartilage in the joints. This then affects the range of movement. Your joints can dry out, they can become creaky, the bones can start to rub together, you can start to get arthritis. And this is a horrible one, because if all you get is painkillers, you're not resolving the situation. And even though it's being caused by falling hormones, if you don't start to support the joints, then if arthritis sets in, then this is one of the symptoms that doesn't resolve when you're through the menopause. So I've done a kind of in-depth video blog about joint pain. It can be sorted quite easily in a number of occasions, and the number one, the magical supplement is water, because if your joints are getting dehydrated and you start to rehydrate yourself, and the number of women who've come back and all they have done is just started to up their water intake, and they've found that the joint pains have started to ease off. You can look at herbs like devil's claw. This is a natural anti-inflammatory. You can look at your fish oils, you know, get some lubrication into the joints as well. So this is another one that you can take. How long is this going to last? The problem is, this is one of these questions that we don't know, and I hate this question because I can't answer it. It's different for everyone. But as I explained at the beginning, the average length is 5 years all told, from the minute your hormones start to change till you're what's called postmenopausal. But joint pain, along with a lot of other menopause symptoms, is sometimes a phase. So you might find that the joint pains ease off anyway. But this is one of the symptoms that, you know, the quicker you get to grips with it, then the better it is for your long-term health. Sarah is asking about perineum pain. Is that part of the menopause? The perineum is basically the area around the vagina and the anus. Yes, because these are mucous membranes, and if everything starts to dry out, and we know vaginal dryness is one of the really common menopause symptoms. So if everything starts to dry out, that can very often affect the tissue in this particular area as well. It's very uncomfortable, because especially if you're sitting, you're going to be in possibly constant discomfort. With this one, yes, get it checked out by your doctor just to make sure it's not a prolapse, because with a prolapse, what can happen is all the pelvic organs can start to press down. So if you find that this particular pain gets worse when you're sitting down, then there is a possibility that things have shifted a little bit. So, you know, get this checked out by your doctor. The other things that can very often help with this would be your sea buckthorn oil, to help to get the moisture back. Remember, plenty of water. And the other one, which is fabulous, any kind of muscular issues round about the pelvic area, is Pilates. If you can get an experienced practitioner, they can show you some really great exercises that can help to strengthen the whole pelvic area. So this is, you know, it's well worth looking into Pilates. For those of you who are approaching the menopause, starting a Pilates class and working on the pelvic floor muscles is an absolute boon for when you go through the menopause. So definitely worth doing. For those of you that are already experiencing difficulties, it's not too late to start, and you may still get some good benefit from that as well. Eve is saying, hi Eve. I've got a pain down the left and right side of her skull and back down into the collarbones, into her lower arms and hands, and the balls of my feet and my toes. One of the problems with menopause is that it can affect our posture because the joints and the ligaments and the tendons can change. Then that can affect our whole skeletal structure. And if something is a little bit out, especially down the spine, that can affect the nerves going up the way, and it can affect the nerves going down the way. And you can get what's called referred pain. So you might have an issue in your spine, but you're feeling pain somewhere else. So this is one where a chiropractor would be a really good idea to see a chiropractor. They can check if anything is out of line, and they can offer you a really good treatment program as well, and maybe a set of exercises to help to offset this. With the pain as well, especially if it's nerve pain, if it's tingling, get this one checked out by your doctor as well. We know that low B12 can be an issue in the menopause, and one of the symptoms of low B12 is nerve pain and shooting pains. And it's one of these ones that, you know, if it is low B12, this can be fixed really easily. So it's worth just a visit to your doctor as well. Layla, hi Layla, I'm perimenopausal and getting breast pain, but only in one breast. Again, this is something that can happen as the hormones start to change, especially if you're getting a lot of estrogen fluctuation. This can affect the breast. You can get breast tenderness, you can get breast pain, you can get really, really sensitive or painful nipples as well. Only thing I would say with this, any breast changes, always get them checked out by your doctor. Look at your water intake. Dehydration can be an issue. Our breast tissue is very much like a sponge, and if you are dehydrated, the body wants to hang on to as much water as possible, and one of the areas where it will store it is in the breast tissue. And this is why a lot of women find, as you go towards a period, as your estrogen falls, you get extra dehydrated. If you're not drinking enough water, the body wants more, so it will store moisture, water in the breast tissues, and that's when you'll end up getting swollen breasts, tender breasts, sore breasts just before a period. So it can be the same situation here. So loads of water. Kelp can be another one that's really good. A lot of women find that breast tenderness can be eased by drinking plenty of water and a kelp supplement. The other thing that can happen here is that our breast tissue size and shape can start to change during the perimenopause and the menopause. And if you have been wearing the same size bra for a long, long time, then, and especially if you wear underwired ones, the wires can end up cutting into the circulation around the breast tissue as well, and that can cause pain. So this is the point, if you start to get breast tenderness, this is the point, if you've not recently had yourself measured and checked for the correct bra size, this is the time to do it, and that can honestly make quite a lot of difference as well. Just a few more ladies, that's an hour. I can't believe it already. Time flies when you're enjoying yourself, and I've loved every minute of this. You've had some fantastic questions here. So Tracy, she's not sleeping at all through the night and she's so tired during the day. I can understand this. Low estrogen is affecting your ability to fall asleep and to stay asleep as well. A number of little things here. Try the magnesium before you go to bed. We have a lovely remedy that can aid sleep if anxiety is an issue, and that's our valerian and hops mixture. Caffeine can do this even in the afternoon. If you have a cup of coffee mid-afternoon, that can rev up your nervous system to the point where it will still affect you trying to get to sleep. So really try and avoid caffeine drinks by, you know, I always say lunchtime if you can, or mid-afternoon at the very, very latest, and try to avoid anything like that in the afternoon. I am shortly, my weekly video blogs that come out on Monday, doing a sleep month shortly, so maybe sign up for that, when you'll get loads of tips on the best things to help you sleep, the worst things to do when you want to get to sleep, and remedies that can help your sleep as well. The other thing I would maybe say here, Tracy, is acupuncture can be great as well. If our bodies are creatures of habit, and sometimes when we get into the habit of not sleeping well, no matter what you do, that the body just refuses to comply. So maybe something like acupuncture as well, just to sort of sort everything out and retune everything, can sometimes be a really good idea. So thank you all, ladies, so much for joining me. I really appreciate this. For those of you who maybe are thinking, oh, I don't want to write down what my question is because it's too embarrassing, you can email me, eileen@bioforce.co.uk. If those of you go away and half an hour later think, oh, I wished I'd asked that, please get in touch. For those of you that would like me to expand a little bit more what I've been talking about today, again, please get in touch, and I will definitely answer you all. Look out for the weekly video blogs, because they're on all sorts of different subjects, both physical and emotional issues during the menopause. And again, if you want a little bit more in-depth information, we've got all the videos on our YouTube playlist. So thank you again, and I certainly hope you join me for the next live chat. Thank you. Bye.